Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And in this episode we're going to start to repair the bodywork of the MGA. And this car is a MGA from 1958. It is not street legal because it was converted as a race car. It was involved in a crash where it got some substantial damage to the body. And this is the damage that we're going to try to fix. I'm not a professional car body repairman, so this is going to be a lot of trial and error. But if anybody is watching who is a professional, then by all means, please comment and give me recommendations or tell me what we're doing wrong or right so we can all learn from it. To get the dent out of the bodywork and to straighten up that whole front, I'm going to need some tools, and I don't have professional tools. I have some El Cheapo tools, but I also will use my forklift and some other reference points that are anchored to the ground, so I can actually use my hydraulic cylinders to push or pull the dents out of the car. Now, if that doesn't work, then I have to revert back to removing panels, drilling out the spot welds, and then cutting off some panels and then weld them back on later. But we'll see. It's a bit too early. I think we will be able to pull it. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is to do a full inspection and then do an analysis so I can figure out what is the best way to pull out that dent or to straighten that area up. So if you're looking from the front of the car on the left-hand side where the car is not damaged, it's about 36 centimeters from the ground at this point. On the other side, it is about 32. So this side here is 4 centimeters lower than the other side, and that's about 1.5 to 2 inches. So this really will have to come up. And looking at this front part, you can see that this has been pushed up here. So here we have a real high point. So there must have been an impact right here coming from that angle that pushed all this down. So I need to see on how we're going to be able to straighten that up. But also on the side here, things are not right anymore. And I'm just going to make a template on the other side to show you what kind of a curve we are supposed to get here. Because this one, what I see right here, is absolutely not right. So the frame on this car was not touched. However, there is a front part here, which we call the front frame extension part, which is bolted on, that seems to be having a bit of an issue here. This could be crooked, so I need to check that. And right here, I can see where this front extension of the frame is bolted onto the subframe here. There is actually a crack right there. So let's have a bit of a closer up on this crack. And here you have that crack, as I mentioned, up to that point. So this certainly needs to be straightened up and re-welded. So therefore, I think I'm going to take off the frame extension part. I'm going to take the grill off and see inside how that looks like. Looks like we're going to have some work on the grill itself because that seems to be bent inwards. So this is the side which is actually pushed together, and you can see here the cables. So I have to pull those out, but all this is pushed together really. I'm going to show you the other side, and there you'll see how it's supposed to be. Side. And this is the other side, the good side, and you can see that all this is pretty much still intact. It's going up a little bit because I think we have a little kink right here. So we might have to push all that back a bit. Where the damage is on this side. Where you have that bolt, this is where the whole area has been pushed inwards and down. But luckily, this entire surface is still intact. And here we have a bit of a better view on how that metal panel is really pinched. So now let's have a look from the inside and see that big dent, if that is supported by anything. And you can see there's a profile bar right there which is leaning against the actual dent now. All that has to be pulled forward. So now let's look on the other side, at the good side, from the inside out, and we can see that this bar there is actually leaning against the outer shell of the body. So this is good. So this side I don't have to worry about. What I've seen so far is that the frame extension may be bent. So that's the first one I will take from underneath the car and measure it up to specs. If it's not, we'll fix it. If it is up to specs, then we place it back and we'll see if the holes on the right-hand side bodywork align. Most likely they will not, but that doesn't matter, and we will pull the body with some hydraulic rams, and I'll connect those rams to my forklift on one side, and I will hold back the car on its roll cage back to another heavy piece of lifting equipment that I have here. And that way, I will probably be able to pull out those dents. Well, let's hope I can, or at least to a large extent. And then we'll have to wrap up all the details on that and try out that fender. I also will make some templates on the curve so I can compare the left-hand side by transferring it to the right-hand side, making sure that the curve is exactly the same on these fender sides. So the fender will fit nicely. Also do the same thing in the front of the car. So now, first of all, let's remove that frame extension. The subframe is right here. It's bolted down there. So I have to remove those bolts. There's a bolt on the bottom as well, and then it goes to the front. Now, the bolts that we have here, these are the ones I will need to remove to get this frame extension off the car. So the first thing I will do now is to remove the anti-roll bar, and then I can redo the remaining bolts for that front frame extension, and then that should be able to come out and we can have a look at it. Have a look on the pattern you see here on that anti-roll bar, and that's the pattern from this rubber block that used to be right here. So the whole thing has moved about at least 1.5 centimeters to the left. This took a bit of time to get it loose from underneath, so let's see if we can get it out now. And now I think I will have to remove the oil coolers as well because they seem to be in the way. There's always something in the way, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Here it is. Finally. As you can see, it is not very symmetric anymore. This side right here is where we had the bump onto the car, and you can see that this one is flaring out like that. That one is actually flaring out that way, so we should push it back the other way around. Now the bar itself, I think that's all right. So I have a reference diagram that I loaded from the internet for this frame, and I have all the dimensions, but they are in inches, so I converted them to millimeters, so now it's just a matter of checking it out if this is accurate still, and then correct it where it's necessary to be corrected. With the car on the lift, we have a bit of a better view now. So the valance is connecting to this edge here. This is bent, so we need to pull this out. This panel right here is pushed upwards here, so we need to push that a bit down, but it will go down automatically once we're going to pull on this corner a bit under an angle outwards. So when we do this, it will also come up because it needs to come up about 3 centimeters. And then at the same time, you're going to try to lift this dent upwards And I think we will get this in place. But before I do so, I will first straighten up that bolt-on frame that we just removed and make it a little bit more straight. It was not 100% off, but here and there we need to make some corrections, and then we're going to install it back. And once that's bolted back down to the body of the card, then I'm going to start pulling on the panels here. So let me hammer that panel first. So I'm going to start with trying to make this panel a little bit more straight. Okay. So this bracket is a bit bent this way, so we need to knock it back in the other direction. Wait. Let's wait. Just putting some wooden blocks up, and I have a 45-degree angle here, so it can't slide because I need to knock this bracket straight. This is the bracket that supports that front frame extension, and that is actually bent upwards, as you can see, so I need to push this down a bit and more inward. I think that's about right. Maybe a little bit more, but not a lot. And this is the bracket that we need to weld up, but before doing so, I need to push that upwards. So that looks better. We still have to weld it up though. But before I do any welding, I'm going to trial fit actually that front frame, making sure it really fits, because otherwise I might do it for nothing. So I've trial fitted the frame and it seems to fit reasonable, but also I double checked all the dimensions after I have been correcting it, and all that lines up. It's a good thing you can find the stuff on the internet. Yeah, so all these dimensions are looking right, but I still have to weld up this frame because I've been bending it and it's been cracked here and there a little bit, and then we need to paint it. So I'm just going to set the thickness of the metal. That's about 1 mil or 1 millimeter. We're going to start welding. So I'm going to continue welding up all these little cuts here and there, and then we'll paint the frame. So we are about ready to weld the support on the subframe, and I've shielded off the car a bit with a wet cloth, but also with some metal panels. So we should be okay to start welding now. Don't forget to disconnect your battery whenever you do welding on a car. So everything is now welded up. I already have given a bit of paint so it doesn't start to corrode. I should have waited a bit longer because I can see here it was still a bit too hot, but I'm just giving it a little bit more paint in a few seconds. And now we are about ready to reinstall that front part. And meanwhile, the extension frame has dried up. I've given it a couple of coats of black paint before putting it back on. I most likely will scratch it again a little bit when I'm putting it on because it's not an easy fit. But we'll see. I can always add some more paint to it. So hopefully it is fitting properly. Now, for those of you that have an MGA, you might have seen that there are some additional metal panels here. That's those two panels that are welded on afterwards, and this is for the anti-roll bar. Typically that original frame doesn't have this. So let's go and install it. So this is a bit of fiddling to get it in place. I reassembled the front of the car and most of the holes did fit. I had to pull a little bit here and there, but overall this went fairly well. Now it's time to pull out the dents, and for that I've made myself some brackets like this. So I have an eyelet that I can pull, and I have a metal bar that will actually fit in the back. And I made the metal bar as such that it's bent, so it's not going to damage too much or press into the metal, because sometimes you see that. So it will go on like this. So see, it's about that curve I created. So I'm going to stick it in the back, drill a little hole through it, and then I can use this big eyelet to pull on it, and hopefully that's going to work. I don't see much other options to have grip on this. It actually means that with this I will have to drill a hole through the body, but that's okay, I can weld that up later. I also made a smaller one. That's the one that's going to go in the back right here, so I can pull out this dent and I can actually bring this forward. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll find out soon enough. So I'm going to start drilling the holes, and then we lower the car, and then we're going to give it a try. So I'm going to drill, first of all, a little hole and see where we end up. There's already some repair been done on this car because you can see the polyester on it. I can put my eyelet through it. All right. And that should be it. And with this, I should be able to pull pretty good. All right. I'm about ready to start pulling, and to pull the lower part out, I decided to go under a certain angle, both upwards but also sideways, what I assumed was the impact angle, or something under which I can get this straight. I'm using some hydraulic cylinders for that. Those are cheap cylinders. I got a whole set of them for about 200 euros. So let's see if they work. There is a 2-ton and a 5-ton, but I also have a 10-ton ram jack, or whatever they call it, or hydraulic cylinders that we can use to pull out the dents out of the car. I will do it very carefully, little bit by little bit, to see how it goes. I may have to change this one and even go further on another angle, but for now I'm going to leave it there and see how it goes. I'm going to start with the big one, so pulling over here and then gently pulling that one as well. So hopefully the one pump that I have, I can toggle between these cylinders, because I only have one pump. Now, the car itself is not locked to the ground, but I have it tied up in the back on the roll cage to a high lift. Let me show you. This is the lift, and this thing is not going to move, believe me, and I have it locked down to the top of my roll cage, and I hope I can keep it in place like this, but we'll find out soon enough. So let's give it a try. So here is the hydraulic pump. I'll place it here. Now, as soon as I have some tension on the pistons, I will actually place a blanket on it just in case anything snaps, because this stuff can be dangerous, especially when it's under load. So let's see if we give it a little pull, what happens. You can see tension is coming up. Car is moving a bit forward, but that's okay. All right, let's pull a bit more and see how it goes. Now I can see it's slowly coming out. Yeah, it starts to open up. I probably should now give some tension on the top one. All right, so I shouldn't go too far with it. A bit more. All right. So folks, I hope you enjoyed this video so far, and I will have to pause it right now because otherwise it will take too long. So please, by all means, put up your comments and your recommendations, and thank you so much for viewing. The next episode is coming up next week, so keep watching. Thank you.